Good morning, everyone. My time and good afternoon, good evening. It's a smaller group today, so this could actually be more intimate, and I'll try to give you guys the attention, you deserve for being here, right? It's myself and Andrew and 9 of you, right? And we took out all the note taker AIs because I think we're going to actually it's 3 of us, myself, Andrew, twice. There's 2 Andrews. So there's 8 of you. So this is going to be intimate and this is good, right? I love, there's nothing like high touch, high contact. I like to call it verbal combat, right? So let's get into it. So how's everyone doing? This is now an opportunity. If you haven't been able to voice your opinions, you can absolutely do that. And unfortunately, if we also have this kind of a number, it means you can't hide. I can actually call you out. So I'll be calling people out, say, hey, please, what do you think, Edward? Or what do you think, Giuliano? That would be very, very helpful for everyone. Okay. And of course, this is being recorded, so you should have access to it at the end of the session. All right. So very quickly, how are we doing? How did you feel about Tuesday's session, and what are you looking forward to getting out of the Beamer Lab Accelerator going forward? Who wants to take that on? I don't want to start cold calling, or especially since I'm the only one on camera.
Let me just rip the band-aid off.
Okay. All right, Philip. Get yourself out of trouble immediately, right? Go ahead. What's up?
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to see you guys again. Today, I would love to be challenged a lot again, like last time. I was in a group with Mwendo from Agrails, and it's like he's building what we are looking to build ourselves. Can you see me? I don't know if my camera is on.
Yeah, I can see you. We can see you.
Okay, so I would love to be challenged more like last time. I really went home with a lot of questions and seeing that there's still a lot of work we are supposed to do. Tonight, I'm here with my co-founder. He can wave so that he's listening. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing? Great. So he's
We're
called.
good. We're good. Good.
He'll be helping us with building the tech that will support our theory of change in this class. So it's nice to just enjoy what we have today. Thank you.
Excellent, Philip. Thank you very much. And I'm glad your co-founder is in the background. These conversations are also very tailored to teams that have co-founders, right? And I know that in the entrepreneurship world, there's this conversation around you must have a co-founder, you must have a co-founder. I do believe in co-founders, but I don't think it should be something that should stop you if you have a really good idea. But I'm glad your co-founder is there. So great to see you guys together. All right, anybody else? Edward, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm part of Philip's team.
Felix.
Philip, he's my CFO.
Oh, Philip. Sorry, you're part of Philip's team. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So Philip's team who else is everybody here from Philip's team? Is this Philip's is Philip getting a workshop all by himself?
I wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Edward. Well, thank you for letting us know, and glad you're here. Okay. And Philip, your team is going to benefit from this, so that's good. Anybody else? Okay. I guess we'll warm up as we go along, right? So I'm going to share my screen. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That came out of nowhere. Let me share my screen and then we'll just get started because I do want to have a good very vibrant conversation with you all. Make sure my screen is being shared properly. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you can see my screen, right? How does it look? What do you see? You can get a thumbs up. In fact, I don't need a thumbs up. I just need verbal acknowledgement. You can see my screen, yeah?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, cool. So, and I see there's an AI that is fighting really hard to get into the system, but that's okay. We're going to keep it out for now. So let me start the conversation today. I want to talk about the conversation today is really going to be about discovery, but more so on the problem side, right? And we started having this conversation last on Tuesday. I was about to say last week, but on Tuesday, around what does discovery look like? And for you if you're early stage, and I don't know why my camera keeps doing that, it keeps flipping around. Hold on. Okay, so if you are an early stage company, if you are a growth stage company, if you are a scaled up company, it doesn't matter to me. You're always doing discovery, but discovery is critical for new companies for early stage because you need to make sure that you are really hitting the right notes in your market, right? You want to make sure you're solving the right problems, that you have the right solutions, that you have the right customer base, because if you don't, your company goes away. Okay. So before we get into the conversation, I want to say a couple of things just for those of us in the room, right? First things first is please speak up. If you don't know something, just raise your hand. Say, hey, Chidi, please, could you explain that more? If somebody else says something you don't understand, you can ask for clarification and we will absolutely talk about that. If there's something you do know. So one of the things that I do, the reason I do this work is I am learning also, right? Sometimes people like to present themselves as experts, and because you're an expert, you know everything. I don't know everything. In fact, I know that I don't know everything. And so when I come into these sessions, I know I'm going to be learning from you. I'm going to be learning from others. And so if you have something that is important for us to know, please speak up, right? And we'll definitely love to hear from you. If you have a question, that's the other piece. If you have a question, please ask the question too. And given the small group that we have today, this also gives you a great opportunity to ask questions. All right. To the extent that you can, please put your devices, phones down. There are people who, unfortunately, when you have such a session that you think is mandatory, that's the challenge, right? It's like, oh, this is mandatory. So I'm just going to come, leave my machine on and go and do other things. My counsel will be maybe don't do that. This is, I just to be honest, right? There are when you attend these sessions, I always like to remind people that the people who are bringing the sessions to you, especially whoever is delivering the content, they usually deliver this content for a significant amount of value, right? Whether it's money or whatever it is, they can be quite expensive.
Chide, I don't
Yes,
know what
Tamara.
happened to your audio. I'm not so sure if it's my end only, but your audio, I think, just changed somehow. It's a little bit peaky, like the peak is too much. Yeah, the pitch.
Is that what everybody else is experiencing? Can I get some additional feedback on that? Is everybody else experiencing that too?
You're good on my end.
Okay.
Fine.
Tawanda, just make sure it's not your headphones or whatever you're using, right? I've tried to attenuate the audio so that it's not peaky. I'm looking at my meters and I am in the green. So my sense is that we are good. But if it's still giving you problems, maybe just check your earbuds, okay? All right, cool. All right. So let's see. So as I was saying, I hope that we have people's attention, right? As opposed to folks trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time. But again, there's no way for us to monitor this, or there's no way for us to enforce anything. So we're not going to. This is for your own benefit. Yeah. So let's roll. Let's do this. One thing I want to start with, I'm talking to entrepreneurs, people who are doing very important work. And it is important for us to understand that when you have the entrepreneurial mindset, that is a problem-oriented mindset. There are people who talk about solution-oriented. I even have one of the most powerful product people who doesn't like when I say entrepreneurial mindsets are problem-oriented. He likes to say they're solution-oriented. And me, I think that solution doesn't get to the root issue. I think solutions are relatively easy to do. I do. I think so, right? Especially today. But really getting in front of the problem and understanding the problem, I don't think is as easy. And so those of us who are in that problem-oriented mindset, we're the ones who create the magic. And usually that magic is called innovation. Think about, does anybody remember COVID? If you don't remember COVID, please pack your things and leave the room right now. Yes? You remember COVID, yeah? So can anybody say what was the problem that we needed to address during COVID? Can anybody share what they think? What was the problem that we needed to solve during COVID?
So I'll have a try here.
Go
Actually,
ahead,
my
Tawanda.
organization started because of COVID-19. So
Okay.
I realized that it exposed that Africa or Zimbabwe doesn't have enough accessibility to healthcare facilities.
Okay.
So that's how we birthed the mobile clinic healthcare on wheels concept. So yeah, so it was for me, it was all about accessibility and health equity and the whole equality discussion around access to healthcare.
Okay. So you're saying that the problem was access to healthcare. Excellent. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any other thoughts on which problems were we trying to solve during COVID?
I think I'll go next, if I may.
Hillary, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we had many problems, but the biggest problem was how do you reduce the spread, which was a big issue. Number two, which was the main one, how do you reduce the death? So the death, the spread, how do you also introduce it to many people so that the effects of the COVID does not lead to death? And that is where the vaccine conversation came from. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Hillary. That's a great comment there. Any other comments before I add my 10 cents?
Yeah, maybe I can jump in.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think COVID made it difficult for most businesses that are based on service provision, especially when you look at the fact that most people now were in lockdowns. So most service provision based businesses had difficulties in terms of how do they provide their service when the customer is locked away. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges for most businesses and most startups during COVID period.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate you all. And Tawanda mentioned access to healthcare. Hillary spoke on some of the issues with trying to reduce the number of deaths and the spread, getting vaccines to people, and then we just also heard about the impact on businesses. And as much as all of those were definitely very significant problems, you don't want people dying, right? I would challenge all of us to think of maybe the problem wasn't just fighting the virus or access to healthcare or even access to vaccines. Think about how we used to make vaccines prior to, right? To COVID. It used to take 8-10 years for you to produce a vaccine. But what happened was with COVID, we needed to change the way we produce vaccines, right? From years and years of testing to a very rapid process that took advantage of many of the technologies available, including AI. AI existed in big time way before, it became mainstream. And so data processing and AI, they use that to reduce the amount of time it took to go from one vaccine that took years and years of testing to months of testing and release, right? And so that's what we mean by being problem oriented, is really understanding the problem, right? I talked about this on Tuesday where many people say, well, the problem with insurance is that people don't want to buy insurance, right? And the question I asked all of us was, is the issue really that people don't trust insurance, or is there more to it, right? Is there more to it? And that's what we're going to be doing in this program as we discuss, right? So we want to make sure that the customer is front and center. And I'll emphasize this over and over again. As you build your ventures, the customer is front and center. It is not the investor. It is not Bima Lab. It is not FSD. It is not Chidi. It is not your spouse. It is not your partner. It is the customer. They are front and center. When you find yourself starting to move away from the customer, especially if you have clients, right? So there's this whole conversation around clients and customers. And that's why I was talking about how if you go and take a consulting gig on the side in order to keep your company afloat, now you have a different type of customer. And if you built a business for a primary customer and now you're taking on a different type of customer, what happens is it starts to really muddle the business that you have. Okay. So I do want to play this video again, just so that we are reminded as to what we're trying to do, right? Let me just play this video again so that we all listen to it. In fact, let me share my screen so that the audio comes out properly. Let me make sure we do this right. This thing keeps messing around. Just gonna go with that. Okay, share sound. Okay, so we're good. Share sound, optimize. Okay. All right, let's listen to this again.
Sandro, you asked me about the great objection, I don't believe in life insurance. Does anybody get that, or does it just happen where I live? Okay. If somebody says to me, I don't believe in life insurance, I say, you don't have to believe in life insurance. It's not a religion. Life insurance is just risk management. We transfer the risk from families or businesses who cannot afford it to insurance companies who can afford it. That's all it is. And then I'd say to a prospect, at your age, out of every 100 people, one of you will die this year. And the insurance companies do not care if you're the one, because 99 are still paying the premiums. They've only lost 1%. But if you are the one, the loss to your family or to your business is 100%. It's just risk management. Thank you. Let's pass the risk from your family or your business that can't afford it to the insurance company that can afford it.
So I want to, the reason, actually, let me ask you, on Tuesday, I didn't ask you to respond to what he said, but let me stop sharing my video and let me ask you as a squad, what did you think about what he's saying, especially as it relates to the businesses that you are all building, the problems that you're all attacking? Let me get some comments from the group. Anybody who can kick us off. Come on now, don't get shy. You're entrepreneurs. If I was an investor asking you to answer this question so I can invest in you, everybody will be clamoring to speak over each other. How do you know I'm not an investor? So come on, talk to me.
I can try go first.
Sure.
I think I read so many things there. Number one is just simplifying it in a way that somebody will understand. To a user, insurance would be a big term, but death is something that they will definitely know. Bring it closer home to the user, and targeting their age group and actually giving them the stats that speaks to that really shifts their mind to think about insurance as something they need rather than something they will an option really. And at the end of it, putting it to them to make a decision, but with the information that they need to get there. So that's how I think about that.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. That's great commentary there. You're saying that instead of focusing on using the kind of the technical language, insurance, and using all the big words, breaking it down in such a way that customers can relate, and then also using stats, the stats of, hey, insurance, if they are dealing with 100 people, they only care about that one person who potentially will die or who does die, not the other 99, right? And so I think that's a good way for him to communicate that to people. All right, who else? What other comments?
Can I jump in?
Yes, Diana, go ahead.
Okay, I think for me, one thing that I've seen the two times that you showed the video is where, as businesses, sometimes we tend to sell our vision rather than speak to the customer so that they can identify with the solution that we're offering.
That's a good one. I love that. And the thing, visions are very, product vision, company visions are very important. They're so key for you to get buy-in. But usually buy-in from people that you want to come and work with you, people that you want to support you, people that you want to, give you the kind of resources that you need to do well. Shoot, sometimes it even works with customers. But Diana is saying that, and I agree that sometimes the focus has to be on the customer. What pain point do you have? As opposed to trying to say to the customer, hey, here's our big vision. This is what the world's going to look like, right? The customer is like, that's fine for you. But what about what's in it for me? Because that's what, all of us are customers. Every time we go to the market and negotiate, we bargain with our traders and the people, the shopkeepers. It's about what's in it for me, right? I don't care about your vision. Your vision is sweet, but what's in it for me? And customers are very selfish, and you have to appeal to that self-interest that customers have. So that's what Diana is saying, is that, you need to talk to the customer, and that's what he was doing there. Okay, one more. Do we have one more comment before we keep going? Yes, Philip.
Like the way towards the end of his presentation, he simplifies what insurance is, and for a long time, people don't understand what insurance actually is. He says insurance is transferring risk to somebody who can afford it. It's quite a very clear statement. So whenever we are selling our proposition, let's say to our farmers, we tell them that we can shoulder their risk when now they cannot able to benefit from their crops. I think that will be something we can use and simplify further, even as we work on our messaging moving forward.
Yeah. If you're talking to a farmer, say, look, if we work with 100 of you, we know that one out of every 100 of you, your farm is going to burn down, or your farm is going to go through a major catastrophic event. Something is going to happen that will put you in jeopardy. And we care about you. We will take care of you. We're not even concerned about the other 99 who don't have that problem, right? It will be you. And I think that's the way people need to start to kind of understand this stuff, all right? Okay, so that's good. So let's continue the conversation.
excuse me, can I add something? Okay, now for us at Nomad Pro,
yes.
so
And who's speaking? Who's speaking, if you don't mind me asking?
my name is Kiambi, sorry, Kiambi Cavalli from Nomad
Kiambi?
Pro, Africa. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
the type of insurance, the covers that we do for livestock, it's not a replacement of the asset, but it's an insurance that allows the pastoralists when it's getting very dry to have access to some money to buy fodder and water. So it's not the animal, we're not expecting the animal to die. We are trying to prevent the death of the animal. But what I wanted to say is a bit of what Philip said. It's the patience of being able to communicate at the level of the pastoralist. The story that you give, I mean, if they have been facing drought and animals are wiped out, and you just start from there, what has happened in the last few years, how did it go? How did you build the resilience? How did you protect your animals? And they're just telling them, look, this insurance, we will provide you information along the year. And if we look at the vegetation and this is the level of vegetation in your area, then you will get some money to go, to look for fodder and buy the fodder and buy water for your animals. And also giving communication, especially like pastoralist, literacy levels in Somalia are very low. So the communication needs to be simple things like we will put flags in the market, in the mosques where you normally are, and this is what the flag means. When it's green, it means we are saying the vegetation looks very good in this particular area. And it goes down, when it gets to black, we are announcing that you actually are going to get a payout. So it's really coming to that, the level of the person you are dealing with, and because the people are very intelligent, and if you really explain to them, the project you are working on in Somalia, there was general surprise because the apt insurance, the financial system in Somalia has been out, I don't know, for the last maybe 35 years. The central bank was revived about 6 years ago. Insurance, we wouldn't even talk about insurance. There's no regulator. Let's even start from there. But when you explain that this little amount you will pay will give you this amount of dollars to buy fodder and water, it makes sense. And so what was expected that very few people would uptake, the target was 100, I think, and 45,000 pastoralists in 5 years, 100,000 took up in 1 year. So it's how you get into the mind and the life and the culture of the person who is your customer. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your commentary. And, look, listen, even if you, when you see, if you say insurance, yes, then people start thinking it's about asset replacement or, asset recovery or whatever. And I think the language is very clear that the way he used it, it's risk management. Doesn't matter what that risk is, whether it's your life, whether it's your, your ability to function. I asked a whole bunch of people last on Tuesday, I said, how many of you have travel insurance, or get travel insurance? Nobody responded. Or maybe I did actually. Well, yeah, I did ask you. And the truth of the matter is that's also risk management. When you travel, we will make you feel better about the kind of risk that you'll be taking on. In speaking to your customers, you speak to their language. As I said, there's a self-interest when it comes to customers. And you have to appeal to that. If you don't appeal to that, and you start trying to appeal to other languages, regulatory, unless the regulators are are your customers, right? You start to lose sight. So great point about you just have to speak to the customer and make sure that you address their pain points, which is what we're talking about today. What are the pain points and what are the root issues of those pain points? Okay. All right, so let me continue the conversation. And this is what I was looking for. I was looking for this level of engagement. So please keep bringing it, because this is exactly what we are here for. Okay. I want to, so let me ask you, let's do a case study. I asked a question about BlackBerry last time. So if I ask you, why is BlackBerry no longer in business? Why is BlackBerry no longer in business? What do you think? What do you think is responsible for BlackBerry's disappearance, their non-existence today? I'd like to get some short answers or comments or insights from you guys. Talk to me. Why is BlackBerry no longer in business?
Is it because they stopped being innovative?
One second. Who's speaking? I know somebody else wanted to speak. Is this Edward? Who's speaking?
Edward. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, please. And next, when you're about to speak, just let us know who you are so I can make sure I acknowledge you. Go ahead.
Oh, this is Edward. I'm thinking is like they closed their research and development department. So they stopped being innovative. They didn't move with the technology.
I love when you said that they shut down their R&D department. That's a very good way to think about it. Edward says they shut down their R&D department. I think you could make the argument that they stopped doing the kind of research that they needed to do. Excuse me. Okay. I know somebody else wanted to speak. What's your comment?
Hello.
Yes, Lionel. Go ahead.
Yes, so Lionel here. I think another reason they died out is because they didn't respond to the changing consumer market. They focused mostly on business power users who turned out to be minority.
Yeah, Lionel, you clearly know you and who is it that spoke? So Edward, you guys clearly know your BlackBerry conversations. Without dwelling too further on this, it is clear that the consumer was changing and they didn't really keep up with the consumer behaviors out there. In my prior life, I was the head of the mobile platform for CNN. And CNN, we were very prominent with BlackBerry. And then when Apple came out with the iPhone, we were one of the first companies that they came to and said, look, we would like to have you on our device. So we built for Apple. And when Apple came out, I think we saw what was going on and we said, interesting, BlackBerry, are you guys seeing this? And BlackBerry's like, yeah, we've seen it, but we're fine, because you guys are using Blackberries for work. The Apple is a home device, right? And remember, Macintoshes and iWatches and iPhones weren't prominent back then. So they just saw Apple as if, that's just a niche play, even with all the publicity. But it wasn't Apple that took BlackBerry out. As Lionel has correctly identified, they just didn't keep their fingers on the pulse of the market. And it's funny that Edward says they shut down the R&D department. They might as well, even though they didn't, because they didn't do the research. And it's not research and development. I like to call it research and discovery. They didn't do that work to understand that consumers were no longer interested in just some device in their hands that was about work. They also wanted devices that would entertain them, that would give them a portal to all kinds to different worlds, right? And that's what the consumer was looking for. And so when they didn't provide that, that put them out of business. So now let me ask, why is M-Pesa such a great product? I don't know if you have any Kenyans on the call, but I'm curious from everybody else, what made M-Pesa such a great product? Why is M-Pesa such a great product?
Tawanda here.
Tawanda.
For me, M-Pesa championed financial inclusion, primarily for bottom of pyramid. So the guys that are not banked all of a sudden became banked and bankable and traceable because of M-Pesa, like any other mobile money platform in Africa.
Interesting to wonder. Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments on M-Pesa and why it is a great product?
Hello again.
So I can't talk about financial inclusion. I am Celeste from Congo, Republic of Congo. I can say that M-Pesa adapt is her solution to the need of users. It's in financial inclusion.
Yeah.
It
Okay, thank you.
it
Keep going, Celeste. Keep going. Sorry. Keep going. Celeste, keep going. Keep going. I know
yes,
you were going.
okay. Yes. On my side, in my country now, at Abiki Brokers, our first solution was the app mobile. But now we are discovering that our user potential use USSD to pay, to buy, to send money, and we are now using USSD platform to solve her insurance problem in our country, and using to WhatsApp. All we are doing it's just to adapt our solution in the user problem.
Okay. So I appreciate that. And listen, I think we're starting to touch on the fact that M-Pesa really understood the customer, understood the problem. They actually immersed them, especially in Kenya. And you'll see a situation where this didn't necessarily work out somewhere else, right? And so, the problem with that, not the problem, the reason why M-Pesa is such a great product, at least, to the extent that it's become this, one of the world's best mobile money platforms ever, is that they were able to dig deep and understand what the problem was. They really down the problem, right? If you notice, they didn't say, "Oh, the solution is some mega app," or you notice they didn't say, "Okay, we're only going to restrict it to smartphones because that's the technology that can work with it." They actually just went and listened to the customer. How can I get money? How can I, get my grandmother in the rural area, right, in Kenya, to be able to receive money easily from me without going to a bank, without going anywhere else? She just gets money from me, right? And then she can also, use that money and transact with somebody in her neighborhood who doesn't have a bank account. And that's the key. That's what we're doing with this conversation that we're having today, is to make sure that we understand that bad products, and not even bad products, but you'll say failed products, many times are that lack of immersion with the customer. And then great products are those that really got into the core issue, the root issue, as to why are the customers having a pain point. Okay. And that's something that we should all keep in mind as we go along. So one of the things I love this. This is a post on Twitter that I got 4 years ago, and this is about discovery. It's like before you even start to write code, that's the thing. It's so easy to write code. Before you even start to write code, you need to make sure that you understand who the customer is and what problems do they have. How are they solving those problems today? Right? Because that's the other thing. Many times, when you go to a customer and we start to say things like, well, we're looking to understand what problems you have, you make the assumption that they're not solving those problems. They may be solving the problem, but it's not an ideal solution. They may be solving the problem, it's too expensive. They may be solving the problem, it is very difficult to implement. So you need to understand what solutions people are using. You know, he says, you know, what your solution is. I don't like that particular number 4. I don't like what your solution is. I think it's best to say, here's my thesis on how this could be solved, right? Because when you say what your solution is, before you write any line of code, that means you haven't done any discovery. And so your thesis around what the solution is an assumption. And your goal is to go and validate that assumption at some point. And then, of course, why you and why now, right? And that's, you know, he says the last 2 are the most important. I think those are very important. All of them are important. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to break you out into, excuse me, I'm going to break you out into rooms, and I'm going to ask you to do an exercise for me. This is going to be very important as we continue our conversation. We're going to take about 10 minutes. There's not many of us here, so I think I'll do maybe 3 groups. There should be about maybe 2 or 3 people per room. And I hope everybody participates. I hope this is a situation where everybody is present. I want you to think about your company, this company that you're building right now, this startup that you have right now. I want you to think about the future of your company. And I know many of you like to, you know, we talked about Okra on Tuesday. Okra had a headline, which is unfortunate. The headline is that they shut down. The founder had to join another company. You know, they returned money to their investors. But the headline that you are going to write is going to be more optimistic. I want you to think about the future of your company and the headlines that they will write. So let me give you an example. I'm working on a project right now, and I'll tell you what I will do, right? So here's a good template. Here's the template that I'll ask you to use. So what's the headline? The name of the company is called Loaded. Loaded becomes Africa's first global unicorn by changing the way people define and build their careers. That's the headline. The subheading is Loaded has just acquired 49% of LinkedIn in a stunning rise for a company in the careers business. What's the report? 2 bullet points. First, founder Chidi Aflezi has been working on this for 10 years and slowly built this company into a platform that is now part of everybody's daily career management. Okay, I'm just making this stuff as we go along. The second bullet says the company became a unicorn. Let me say 5 years ago, and is consistently, you know, making $10 billion in revenue and over. Now, that is very optimistic, but I have every right to be thinking about my business like that. Okay, and you should too. And I have a reason for you to do this, because you want to, you know, as it says in this slide, I want to give you a chance to dream about the future of your team, of your organization, right? I want you to start to think about how the problems, if you solve them, how successful you might be, or how it positions you in the world, right? Especially when it comes to insurance in Africa. So we're going to take 10 minutes. It's 54. Okay, so once it's 55, we'll go. I'm going to put this in, you know, Andrew, if you can capture this, I don't know if you can capture this and put it in the WhatsApp. I don't have the access to the WhatsApp. So, you know, I can send this to you. I can capture it and send it to you. And then everybody can have it in their WhatsApp group. Do me a favor. I want you to write a headline. I want you to create a sub headline and then 2 bullet points. And I want you to share it with the people in your room. So once I send you to your room, take the first 2 minutes and write down your headline, write down your subheader, and then write 2 bullet points. And then share it with the people in your room. Discuss it with them. And don't be afraid. Say whatever it is you want to say. Okay? Is that clear? Are we clear on that? Yes? Okay. And what I'll do is I'll send this to you very, very, in your rooms. Okay. So I'm going to break you out into rooms. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Seems like we're all back.
Hello.
Soft system, actually.
Sorry,
right.
as I'm on the
So
highway, time to time the network will be very.
okay, I think some people were speaking, but we lost them. So let me get some thoughts from one or two thoughts from the groups. How did people write their newspaper headlines? How did they come across? Can anybody talk about their headline and then, or their newspaper write up and then for somebody else? Let's just get a couple before we keep moving.
Okay, so
Anybody
I'll
want to?
attempt mine. It's Tawanda here.
Yes, Tawanda, go ahead.
I was in group 1, so I didn't get the chance to present mine. So I'll take the opportunity now. But all the others were interesting. So my headline reads as follows. So Zimbabwe's Abantu Healthcare receives Nobel Prize for universal health cover in Africa. Then I put the subheading as micro health insurance now creating jobs for 5,000 employees across the country. And then I put a subheading of 30% of the unmanaged population now has micro health insurance. Then I put up a report which says I tried to draw a sketch. So I drew a sketch of more like a staircase, and it says GDP implodes due to the informal sector joining the mainstream micro health insurance products. Then I put up a quote from one of the users. I have managed to, so it's in quotes, I have managed to save a ton of money on my mom's cervical cancer treatment thanks to Zimbo's Abantu Healthcare micro health insurance product.
Okay, that's good. Thank you,
And
Tawanda.
Diana, I wish we had time, but Diana's was also very interesting. But yeah, it was interesting from all the team members. So.
Oh yeah, Diana, let's hear yours then. Go ahead. Diana, you might be muted.
Sorry. Yes. So I was toying with a number of headlines. I think it was an interesting topic, but I had one which I think is my favorite, which is Obic Business Solution named Africa's most transformational insurtech. And the subheading had been Obic redefines insurance payments and access across over 10 countries in Africa.
Okay. All right. And I would love to hear more. And in fact, if anything, if people can post theirs in the chat, that would be great so that we can all see your headlines and your subheaders and bullet points. But from Tawanda and Diana, you can see that ultimately this exercise is a way for you to envision what problems you're solving and how you articulate that to the rest of the world and how you envision people seeing how you've solved those problems. Yeah. Because that is also part of the vision statement, but it's also part of your problem statement is the ability to say, you know what, Loaded has solved the career management issue that many people have, especially in the age of AI or in the age of uncertainty, right? And it is important for us to be able to say things like that. All right. So thank you and listen, do this with your team. Your next, when the team, all of you get together, ask them, say, hey, why don't we all do this exercise? You can sketch if you want. I usually don't do the sketch, but I always say, hey, do the headline, do the subheader, and then do the 2 bullet points. And then you know what? All of you should compare, and you'll see. You'll see if the vision is on point, it will all align in different ways. It might be different story headers, but the fact is you'll see that everybody understands the problem that we're solving. in many cases, you may discover that people are not understanding the problem that you're solving, and the members of your team. This is a good way to also make sure that you handle that now as opposed to later. You want everybody on the same page. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Let's get into some topics of discussion that I have for you, and I'll go through these relatively quickly. And should be able to get you most of this content at some point, including what we talked about on Tuesday, and get that to you. But I do want to drive into product discovery very quickly, right? Again, you want to be very clear on what problems you're solving. I say fall in love with the problem. I mean that, because you can't have a solution if you don't know what problems to solve. One of the worst things you can see with a company or a startup is when they are a company that has a solution that's looking for a problem to solve, right? So what's the goal? So that's what discovery does for you. You validate the problem, you validate the solution, you validate the customer, and you continue doing that as you scale the business, right? So what do we do? When you're building a company, there are two things you're tasked with. I've talked about product strategy. That's always going to be there. But discovery and delivery, you need to know what the pain points are. But you also have to be able to release as often as possible and as confidently as possible, right? So with discovery, your goal is to have evidence, right? How can you say that you know what you're doing if there's no evidence? Especially you that's solving the problem. How can you go and solve a problem and you don't know what evidence there is that there's a problem? So discovery allows you to make sure that you stay on top of it. You don't become BlackBerry, where you think that you know what the problem is. You don't know what the problem is to go and find out what the problem is. You know people that say, Chidi, trust me, I know what the problem is. I don't trust you. I don't, unless you show me evidence. Here are the pieces of information, the data points, right, that show that this problem is a weaker problem that needs solving. Here are here's the evidence that this is the customer, this is the market we should be targeting. And here's evidence that we think we have a viable solution here that could work. We've done prototyping, we've tested it, we've validated it, right? That's what discovery is all about. So what you want to do is you want to increase the probability that what you are saying, the work that you're doing, that this company that you have started, this company that you're building is the right one, because you have the information, you have the intelligence, right? And who gives you that intelligence? It's the customer, it's the market. It's not McKinsey. It is not the World Health Organization. It is not the insurance regulator. It is not Chidi Afulezi. It is the customer. They will give you the kinds of insights that will allow you to say, you know what, we think we know what we're doing here. And that's key. And so the thing about discovery is that it's about reducing uncertainty, right? It's about reducing uncertainty. You want your uncertainty to go from high to low, right? And so if you have high uncertainty and the impact of that uncertainty is high, right, then you need to go do discovery. So you have high impact, you go do discovery. If you reduce the uncertainty, now you can execute. So your job, the reason that you do discovery is to reduce whatever uncertainty you have. We talked about this. Reduce your uncertainty so that you can now go and execute. That's what startups are for. Startups are built to reduce uncertainty about the problem, about the customer, about the solution, so that you can execute. And then the more discovery you do, that's how you keep your uncertainty low. When you stop doing discovery, what happens is you start to increase the uncertainty. Okay? And in fact, discovery is what should tell you that, you know what, we may be in the wrong business, or we may be attacking the wrong customer, or we may be attacking the wrong problem, or we may have the wrong solution, because that's where you can pivot. Discovery is where people pivot. Pivots just don't happen because you ran out of money or because you have no other option. No, it's because your discovery has said to you, you know what, we're not going the right direction. Okay? That's why you have all the tools that help you get all that information. So then let's go back to M-Pesa, right? Do we realize that M-Pesa actually made its inroads to South Africa? Let me ask the group a question. Why do you think M-Pesa did not succeed in South Africa? I would love to hear some thoughts on that. Anybody?
Yeah, it's Tawanda again. I think I would say that the market dynamics were not the same. The problems were not the same, or are still not the same. Perhaps there was more banked people in South Africa than in Kenya. I would also probably want to put, the issue of elbows there. Maybe the strong competition from MTN couldn't just allow these guys to come in. I'm not so sure how far it went, but I know that bottles are thrown and spanners are thrown when we are fighting against the MTN and the Vodacom of this world.
Okay, Tawanda, I hear you that maybe the market dynamics were different, right? My suspicion is that, when Vodacom went to South Africa, there was some, everybody, not everybody, but, you go to South Africa is different from Kenya. We get that. But do you really think that's the issue? Tigis, she says that it was financial regulation. Okay, financial regulation. There's financial regulation in Kenya too, right? I mean, I know the Kenyan market well enough to know that it's not a simple market. It's actually quite highly regulated. So what I think we've already talked about this. What do you think made it? And Vodacom has money. They got resources. They got elbows, Tawanda. You know that they have bottles. They have storage of bottles that they can use to fight, right? And that didn't help them. So what, just based on the conversation we're having, it's actually a relatively simple response. And I'm curious to see if anybody can nail it on the head. Anyone? Remember, this is a safe space.
Yeah, I had to be
Go
the
ahead,
one
Tawanda.
talking
Go
all
ahead.
the time.
It's okay.
I'd like to go back to my first point. Maybe the wicked problem was not as wicked as it was in Nairobi, in Kenya, compared to South Africa.
Interesting. You're getting closer. You're getting much, 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 much closer. And Tawanda,
these guys came in with the solution, without understanding the South African problems.
So
on
Tawanda,
the level of financial inclusion.
You get 100% on that, and I like how you did you kind of did the progression in your head. And for everybody, Giuliano is also saying, the problem was potentially addressed. Everything you've said, Giuliano, Tigist, Tawanda, drives to Tawanda's final point, which is, there are all these things there, but Vodacom didn't really do the work. They didn't do the discovery, just like BlackBerry, to say, wait, this market that we're going into, is it the right one? Should we be bringing M-Pesa? As he said, we're bringing a solution to a market as opposed to we're coming to solve a problem. So did they really do the discovery to understand what problem they were trying to solve? Right? Because as Tawanda called out really well, right? The fact is, this is a highly banked environment. People are using credit cards. They have all kinds of ways to transact. Even in the villages, there was some level of sophistication to the way they did banking, right? Well, Vodacom, if they had done the discovery work, so for instance, instead of doing this big launch, you use millions of dollars to launch. What if they used maybe less than 20,000 to build a prototype? Go out there, send some product managers out there and say, listen to the customer, ask them, let's get some questions. Is this a problem? And if it's not a problem, what is a problem? Because they could have come in and instead of M-Pesa, they could have launched something else. But what they wanted to do was Control C, Control V, Kenya's version of M-Pesa to South Africa, and it failed. And so that's what we're talking about, is discovery allows you, it prevents you from going into these rabbit holes that ultimately, right, will destroy your business or at least put you in significant jeopardy, right? Where you spend so much money developing a solution again that's looking for a problem to solve. So this is what they did. What did they do? They had an idea. They essentially put together what their value proposition was, and then they built it. They went through all this product development work and put all the features. And one of the things about features is everybody has a feature that they want. So you can imagine, okay, we want it to work with USSD devices, and we want it to work with smartphone devices, and we want it to work with, this device. And if you have a TV and you want to transact, it can also, and then the marketing people say, okay, we need it also to be this look and that look. We want these colors in there. We want this. And you do this. So that's why it takes so long to build it. And then you ship it at some point. Meanwhile, your customers have not made any contact with this product until you ship it. So now that you ship it, they're looking at you like, what is this? Who told you this is something I need? Right? And the feedback comes in telling you that it's not what they wanted. And the approach is usually, when we talk about customer-centric product development, you start with the customer, understand the market. Who do you focus on? You know what? In South Africa, there's more smartphones than feature phones. So maybe we build a smartphone product. But even with that, they're already banked. The fact that they have smartphones means that they already have bank apps on their phones and this and that. You know what? Maybe there's something different that we should do. Maybe we shouldn't do it. That's the other thing about discovery. Discovery will actually help you think about whether you should continue or not. You talk to the customers, you understand their behaviors, you understand their pain points, then you kind of put together your vision for what solution to work on. And you build something minimal so that you can test one aspect of that problem, or at least the core aspect of that problem. And then you measure, see if it worked. And then customers will tell you. And you didn't spend a whole lot of time and money on that. So the thing about discovery is that, at the beginning of your process, if you do good discovery at the beginning, right, it actually makes sure that you reduce the chances that your work is more expensive, because the more you go along, as you get towards launching and you don't do discovery, the cost to change your mind becomes more expensive. At the beginning, it's easy to change. Just, you know what? Hey, let's change this. How much is it going to cost? Nothing. But if you try to change your mind further along after you've launched, you see how expensive it is. So you want to do discovery to prevent that from happening. Okay. So one last thing is, you want to make sure that I like this particular graph, because what it does, it tells you as a company, if you have clarity on the problem and the risk of that, the risk to you in terms of attacking this problem is low, then you ship it and you see what happens. If you have no clarity on the problem and the risk to you is high, then you have to do your discovery work. Reduce it so that you can get to high problem clarity. Okay. So are there any comments on this before we move on? I kind of want to, push through some things here, but are there any comments on what we've talked about so far, so I can just talk about problems, problem definition going forward? Any comments, thoughts? No? Okay. All right. Well, let's keep pushing then. If there are no comments or thoughts, I think we have about 30 minutes to go, so I want to make sure we get all this stuff in place. All right. So I again, what does problem design look like, right? Again, understand what a problem is. What is a problem? Can anybody tell me what, in from their definition, what is a problem? What is a problem, right? Like, what is a problem? And it would be a shame if Tawanda has to speak again. Somebody rescue the team.
Maybe an obstacle that makes one fail to achieve their desired goal.
Ooh, I like that, Diana. An obstacle that is preventing you from achieving something that you want to do. I love that. That's a great definition. Can we have another one before we continue? That's a great one, Diana.
Simply A pain point in your
Edward
delivery
is like,
journey.
yeah, a pain point. Edward's, I guess, a pain point. It's like, I have a pain, you know? Yes, you know, it's an unwelcome situation that, you know, needs to be dealt with or overcome. You know, Diana spoke about obstacles. You have to overcome an obstacle. Edward spoke about pain points, right? That means that this is something that's harmful. It's unwelcome. I don't like it. You know, I have a problem and I need you to solve it. How many songs, how many Afrobeat songs are about I have a problem and you need to solve it, right? Because it's unwelcome. So when we talk about problems, you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You'll see this deck, but I need to be clear about something, right? There are different types of problems. Actually, you can categorize a problem, right? You can have an obvious problem, you can have a complicated problem, you can have a complex problem, you can have a chaotic problem. Let me right now just disabuse you of the notion you should not, as a business, be even looking at obvious problems. What's an obvious problem? It's a problem that's been solved, right? We know what the best practices are. We can apply known recipes, right? So, for instance, if I need to find something on the internet, in fact, before, if you needed to find something on the internet, it was Google it, right? Very simple. Now it's ChatGPT it, right? Okay, fine. The options are clear. The cause and effect are evident. So essentially what you're doing is you assess the situation, you categorize the kind of problem it is, and then you base your response on best practice. I have a headache. Take some Panadol or paracetamol or Advil, period. Okay. The other problem that you should stop wasting your time on is chaotic problems, right? Chaotic is crisis and emergency scenarios. All right. So some of you, unfortunately, I've seen people who say, oh, we want to solve the problem of war in Sudan. I don't think you can do that by building a venture, right? The issues going on in Sudan or the issues going on in some parts of our world, those are chaotic. They're crisis, right? So, well, you know, you can only have, you know, organizations that are built to handle those kind of situations, handle that situation. So obvious and chaotic problems, you're not doing. Now, complicated problems. See, the thing about complicated problems, the difference is there is a you don't know the answer, but you know how to find the answer. So for instance, if I give you a differential equation, or let me give you a quadratic equation, I ask you to break it down. You don't know the answer, but you know how to find the answer. That's easy. Or not easy, but it's complicated, but you have a path to success that is known. So expertise is key here, right? You assess the situation, you analyze what is known, right? Using expertise or using, you know, precedent, and then you decide on which response using good practice, right? So once you ascertain that the problem is solvable, you can work out a solution, even if it's tricky. So again, quadratic equation or differential equation, or something like, let's say, flying from Cape Verde to Kigali. It's complicated, but it can be done. I know what to do. From Cape Verde, I fly to Portugal. From Portugal, I fly to Dubai. From Dubai, I go to Ethiopia, and then I land in Kigali after that. Complicated, but I know what to do. Where we operate, entrepreneurs operate, is in the complex world, right? Complex problems, wicked problems, that's what we call them, right? Many business situations fall under this category. You know, not only do we not know the answer, we don't know the answers, but those answers are confounding. They are unpredictable. You know, it is, you can only make your best attempts to solve them and then see if you're even right after the fact, right? With a quadratic equation, once you get all your variables together, you know you're going to be right. But with complex problems, right? With insurance in Africa, shoot, insurance in Zim, or you know, we heard about trying to reduce the risk factors for people who are, you know, farmers who are looking to make sure that they can find water in the case of wells going dry. That is complex, right? So it requires us to be patient, is to look for patterns and to encourage a solution to emerge. You're conducting experiments, you are testing, you will accept failure because there will be failure as part of the learning process. So for instance, setting up a supermarket in Accra is complicated. But trying to disrupt the agricultural industry in Africa, that's complex, right? And so that is the kind of thinking I want you to have as you think about, okay, what kind of problem? Because if you're solving an obvious problem or a complicated problem, let me tell you something, complicated problems is something like, as I said, the airline, trying to fly from Cape Verde to Kigali. You can do it. It's complicated, but other people can do it too. But a complex problem is if you can figure out how to get somebody from Cape Verde to Kigali non-stop. Now that's complex. And right now we don't know how to do it because of all the other factors that are in between. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you. And in sharing that with you, I want to emphasize, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Be clear that you fall in love with the problem. You know, we're human beings, so it is so human to love answers. We love answers. You know, that tendency to love answers has a way of preventing us from really coming up with delightful solutions. So when faced with a problem, we tend to start ideating immediately on what the answer is, right? It keeps us from finding the right solutions since many times our first ideas are not the best ideas. Rarely are our first ideas the best ideas, right? But then if you take that first idea and then what you're doing is you move forward into development and ultimately you get customer pushback. We like to say, oh, the customer is to blame. When the truth is, you must be crystal clear on the problem that you're trying to solve. Okay, so that's an example I would like to give. So, a couple of things. You are not the customer. Oh, the experience is that when I do this, I do that. So that's why this is definitely a problem we should be solving. No, that's not true. Just because you have the problem doesn't mean everybody else has the problem. You're trying to scratch your own itch, right? And then you fall in love with the solution. This AI thing has been actually quite detrimental for a lot of our founders because what they've been doing is they're thinking that now that we have AI is the solution, and it's not. AI is a tool that helps you solve the problem, right? So that's one. Number two, your team is not the customer. Just because the team says we need to solve this problem doesn't mean that that's the itch to scratch. Don't get caught up in what other companies are doing or how other founders did it. It's your customer, it's you and your interaction with the customer. And then many of you are, oh, I'm looking to raise money. Let me be very clear. Raise money and see what happens to the vision, see what happens to the problem that you're trying to solve. They will come at you. And if you are not strong enough to say, this is the problem, we have done the discovery, we understand this problem, it is clear that it's a wicked, complex problem, right? Whenever they go out and somebody says, oh, we used AI to solve this problem, or we did this, or we did that, or we combined with this, they'll come back and try to change either the problem or the way you solve that problem. Remember, they are not the customer, okay? The customer is, as I think it was Edward that said, the person with the pain point. That's who is a customer. And you should be out there doing the discovery so that you understand who has a problem and who you're solving it for. Okay. So let me see. I want to share this video. This is I'm sure some of you have seen this video before. I like this video because it outlines some of these issues that I've been talking about. So let me share my screen again, make sure I have the right things in place. Okay, we're good. It's a short video, but I'm sure you've seen it before.
This is the moment a bridge collapsed in Democratic Republic of Congo as it was being inaugurated. In a video verified by Reuters, sharply suited dignitaries could be seen gathered on the footbridge in the capital Kinshasa. But just as an organizer cut the ribbon, the bridge buckled. Both handrails broke off and the central section slumped into the stream a couple of meters below. Spectators shouted with apparent glee as VIPs struggled to get back onto firmer ground. Nobody was reported to have been hurt in the incident.
Who's seen this video before? Anybody? No, and things are quiet. So I'm just going to make assumptions here because I'm trying to also finish this. So I'm going to take quietness as acquiescence. It means that you're saying yes, right? What do you take away from that video, given the conversations we've had today? What questions are you asking?
So here at Tawanda again, I would say, was the solution the right fit for the problem? They did not identify the type and the nature of the problem thoroughly to match it with the commensurate solution.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. The story also has to do with the public sector. Does somebody else wanted to speak? I think I heard somebody. Anybody?
Yeah, I think Hillary. Yeah.
Hillary, go ahead.
First of all, I've seen a video similar, but that was on a water tap. They were launching it, so he will open the tap and there was no water. And everyone was cheering in the videos and things like that. So, but for this one specifically, that bridge was actually meant for one person to be passing at a time. But all of them were on the bridge at the same time. So it wasn't designed for that kind of a weight, and that is just the physics of it. But just in terms of a bridge itself, it didn't fit the problem that was there. But it could be thought about in different direction.
Yeah. I mean, Hillary and Tawanda, and look, thank you for speaking
So
up. I know.
Chide, sorry, before you proceed, let me take it to the politician's perspective, and then marry it to exactly what you were saying, that it's not for. I'm not the customer. My workers are not the customer. Neither are the investors the customer. In this case, I would like to think in courts. I'm assuming that those 2 or 3 people that were cutting the ribbons are actually the politicians who were doing it for the vote or for the popularity, rather than for actual providing a solution that really works.
Right. I mean, so you see what's going on here, right? There's a fellowship program that that I also help to run. It's for public sector leaders. And I showed them this video. And Tawanda and Hillary have brought up pretty much everything I speak on, which is, first, are we sure that the villagers, this is the problem that they had, which is to cross that? Was that an issue, right? And in building it, did you even identify the problem the way are you sure that only one person should be crossing at a time? Okay, that's a very good point. First time I've heard that, right? The other piece that Tawanda now brings up is the fact that you do understand that this is something that was built for the politicians, right? To come and cut the ribbon so that they have publicity to show that they've been doing whatever work. And that's what we're challenged with. That is where we have to be very careful. As a founder, are you building this so that you can be seen as a baller, right? A shot caller, somebody who is, you want to be like Dangote, right? You want to walk into a room, everybody's clapping for you. Is that why you're building this? Or are you really genuinely interested in solving a problem, right? And so that's something for us to think about. So let me continue. So I want to, so who are you creating value for, right? When you start this company, you're creating value, number one, for the user, but also you're trying to make money. This is not a hobby, right? You're not doing this just to wake up in the morning and say, I have a company. No, you want to create value for the user and you want to create value for the venture, right? But what we want to do and understand is that when you're thinking about value, and I don't want to talk about value for the company. That I think that's very clear. But when you're creating value for the user, for the customer, it's about relieving their pain and also giving them benefits. And I'll talk a little bit about this, right? So when you talk about people exciting and delighting their users, the AirPods, right? the Apple AirPods Max, right? They have, it's not these, right? You know, these are these delights. These are very delightful, but the ones you put over their head, they've gone crazy. You see people wearing them even when they're sleeping, when they go to the bathroom, when they're whatever they're doing, they wear them. Why? Because they want the world to know that Apple is covering their ears, right? You want to build audiences, you know, companies like M-Pesa and African Leadership University, Nike. They have built products or created value in such a way that these people they're loyal. They will be loyal forever. You know, there are people who fly certain airlines because those airlines treat them in such a way that they become loyal, right? You have solutions to problems that create serious venture value. You know, it's if you think about remittances, right? What very valuable company because of their emphasis on, you know, making sure that not only are we creating user value, but we are building venture value. Okay. So these are some things that I want us to think about. When you provide user value, you have solved problems, right? You have solved problems. You know, there's a company, I don't know if they're still in existence. Maybe somebody could tell me. It's called Sun Culture, right? So they do irrigation for small farmers. I don't know. Back in the day, I think when I did this session last year, they were still around. And so basically what they were doing is, because the majority of small farmers in Africa rely on rain to irrigate their lands, this is why yields trail the rest of the world by 50%. You know, the problem only grows worse with climate change, right? And so Sun Culture was essentially built to work with farmers, and they worked with the Togolese government and a distribution partner there was a partnership that they built in 2020, which was to bring their solution to thousands of farming households, allowing these farmers to turn, you know, to the earth instead of the sky for irrigation, right? So there was a pay-as-you-grow financing. They had this off-grid technology, so it allowed farmers to actually get about 3,000 liters per hour of water, you know, from the ground, right, without the need for a fixed energy source, because they use solar-powered arrays. So that's user value, right? So now small-scale farmers in even the remotest areas of the world or of Africa can now irrigate their farms without needing rain, right? So that's just one example of how you create user value, okay? There's one last aspect that I want to address. And in doing that, I'm going to ask the team to indulge me in an exercise that we'll use to finish up today's session. So I want you to think about this. Everybody pay attention. In fact, let me turn my slides off so that you pay attention. So I am Chidi. I come to you and I say, okay, I hear you want to buy a car. You're interested in a car. I have $100,000 for you to buy this car. And you have two choices. The first choice is a Honda Accord. You get basically everything needed: air conditioning, maybe even leather seats. You get leather seats. You even have a sunroof. You know, great radio system. You know, it's a new car, a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry if you want. That car is costing $40,000. Then you have the second choice to buy a Mercedes-Benz E-Class AMG. Brand new. The car is a V8. It can outrun pretty much every car on the road. It's beautiful. Inside, it has red, the red sports seats with the black accoutrements, right? Smells like luxury. And that car is $99,999. Which car would you buy? Which car would you buy? I'd like to get your responses. I see a Mercedes. Let me hear you from you. I'm giving you 100,000 to buy a car. Which car would you buy? You can write in the chats if you want. Just give me, Amir, just give me, you're going to buy a Mercedes or the Honda. We can start doing it depends later. Just give me what car you buy. I'm giving you a choice. Mercedes versus Accord. Tawanda says Honda. I'm seeing
I will buy the
Honda.
Mercedes.
You'll buy the what?
The Mercedes.
The Mercedes. Okay, so I have I have 3 Mercedes. I have 4 Hondas. You know, let's go with that. So let me ask okay, well, 4 Mercedes, 4 Hondas. Okay, so let me ask my Mercedes people. Why, Giuliano, why did you select the Mercedes? Why?
Yeah, thank you. I select a Mercedes because when I think of buying a car, the basic amenities or the basic intent I need from a car is like the one in Mercedes. If I drive, I want to drive Mercedes, that kind of performance, the power that gives me, you know, that's the basic need I'm just getting from a car. Without it, I don't feel I don't want the car for just driving. I need the intimacy, the attachment from that product. And there are specific features that are attached to Mercedes. And if you are going to buy me a car, I would rather buy Mercedes or none.
Okay, so he says the Mercedes, it's not just about driving the car. There's some things the Mercedes brings.
There is a connection, yeah.
Yes, okay, got it. One more person for the Mercedes. Who else? Let me see. How do you say it in Tigist or Tigist? I need to make sure I say that properly. You're on mute if you're speaking.
In my country, when you drive
Wait, hold up,
Joseph,
hold up. Hold up, Joseph.
Okay.
Hold up. Tigist or Tigist, please let me know your name properly and then tell us why you selected a Mercedes. Unless her connection is not. Go ahead. Why did you select the Mercedes? Okay, she's coming in and out. No, we can't hear you. That's okay. No worries. I'll ask somebody else, and then when you get better, you just let us know. Joseph, did you select a Mercedes?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Just because when you drive a Mercedes in my country, you are not like anyone else. Your
You're not
image
anyone else.
is special.
You have a different.
And you feel better than other people, and you feel more secure.
Okay, excellent. So that's why you chose a Mercedes. The Honda people. Let me get my Honda people. Let me start with who wants to go first? Honda. Who's Edward?
Bagasha.
Begasha, go ahead.
Yeah, Tegis maybe she's my team from B Farm Tech. So I choose Honda because it's because of its affordability and the value for money, which
It's
is
affordability.
Affordability, low maintenance cost.
Low maintenance. Okay.
Yeah, fuel efficiency, reliability, and I can sell it. Even the market, this one is very costly, so I choose this one.
Okay, thank you, Begashaw. Thank you. You talked about low maintenance, is affordability. Okay. Anybody else? Accord. Amir, Hillary, anybody?
Yes. So it's about pains and the gains. So I want first to solve to fix my pains, which is I want to to be relocated from one place to one place. This is my pain. I want to be. So Mercedes actually is more about fantasy, more gains for more comfort. So first to pay 40,000 and solve all my problems, more my pains, then I can think about gains later. So it depends about how much I have, what are my priorities. So to have gain after gains, it's step by step. First to solve my pains.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Begasha. I appreciate that. Hillary, go ahead, and then I'll add some more variables.
Yeah, I think first of all is the budget. I have 100K. I spent almost everything on a Benz, assuming that is the only money I have for a car. If it spoils, which it will, I wouldn't have the money to repair it. So looking at it from point of a budget, how much do I have continuously after I buy it? It's not the problem of a car won't go away after I buy it. It just starts. So that is how I will look at it. And also, you buy a Mercedes. I will look at it from a point of people have said the status it brings and the potential doors that it brings. Doors can be always two, so you might find the back door and the front door, and more negative people and positive people might enter. So I just think that just to assimilate and enter into the society without being noticed, and I like that. I don't like standing out in that manner. It can help, but just that's my preference. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So thank you guys for your answers. And I know we are almost out of time. So I'm going to quickly add some variables. Just give me 10 minutes and we'll be done. Right. So let me add some more variables. Right. So now that you've kind of shared, Mercedes versus Accord, I have some additional conditions. Number one is you can't sell the car once you get it. That's number one. Number two, once you buy a car, you must give me my money back. Whatever change is there. So if you buy the Honda, you must give me 60,000 back. If you buy the Mercedes, you must give me the 1 cent or the $1 back. Okay. You cannot keep any money. Number three is that's it. Those are the conditions. Now that I've given you those conditions, has anything changed for any of the people with the Honda? Have you? Does that change any of the dynamics? Do you find yourself still wanting the Honda, or now that you know you can't get the change, the 60,000, and keep it, and you can't sell the car? Does that change your decision? Anybody? Honda?
No, I wouldn't change. Tawanda here. I wouldn't change, because the resale value of Honda is much more than a Mercedes-Benz. So if I were to then recover the money that I would have given back to you, I can somehow, get it back through a resale of a Honda than a Mercedes. At least in my country, the resale value of a Mercedes-Benz is far much lower than a Honda.
Okay, thank you, Tawanda. Hillary, what do you say?
Based on those conditions, I might shift because am I paying you the entire 100K plus the change or just the change? If it's just the change, I'll go for the Mercedes to max out the entire.
It's just a change. It's just a change.
If it's
you have to give me my
change,
change back.
I'll switch. If it's
okay,
the change,
you'll switch.
Yes.
Why did you switch? Why all of a sudden are you driving a Mercedes?
I switch because the value, the value. You have to reduce the change I'm giving you to retain to self. So even if it's losing 30% and the Honda is losing 10%, it will still be more. So I will switch based on those conditions.
Okay, good. So, I wish we had more time because this is a very fun exercise, right? And I'll tell you, in fact, let me share my screen so you can see why I'm asking you to think about this. And what does it have to do with problems, right? What does it have to do with problems? Well, first things first, you want to also be able to understand the difference between the functional and the emotional. So a car, the Honda and the Mercedes, if you need to go to the hospital because you have an emergency, doesn't matter to you which car you're using. Does it? Both cars are functional. They will get you from your home or from the point of the emergency to the hospital. That's functional. But then there's an emotional aspect to it, right? There's an emotional aspect. So the job to be done, the problem that needs to be solved has a functional dimension and an emotional dimension. And so functional is, for the Honda Accord people, they're looking at it and say, look, I just need to get from one place to the other. It's easy for me to maintain the car. I don't have any drama. I don't want to stand out. That's it. But then folks who have the emotional side to it, there's a personal dimension and social dimension to problems. The personal dimension is how I feel. And I think that's what I was hearing. I think it was Hillary How do I feel inside this car? It makes me, no, Giuliano. It was Giuliano. Said, this car appeals to me personally. This is the way I want to feel. There's a way I carry myself. There's a way I think about myself. And that is what this car is doing for me, right? So think about it. Do you know how many people buy products because of the way it makes them feel? It's not just functional. Some people, there are lotions out there, face lotions. Basically, you put lotion on your face looks fine. It's $2, $3. You're good. But actually, there are people who want their face to look different. They want it to look younger. So what do? They go and buy the $50 lotions, the serums with all kinds of things in it. Because already they know their face is fine, but they want their face to even be better. That's a personal dimension. The social dimension is how are you perceived? And I know, for instance, in Lagos, people will look at the watch you're wearing. They'll look at the car you're driving. That's why sometimes they're walking out with you. They're not walking out with you because they're being polite. They're walking out because they want to see what you came with. So when you're looking at problems, there's functional and emotional. The Mercedes-Benz, there's one of my former MBA students that said, Chidi, I will take the Mercedes-Benz. I said, why? He said, because I want to go to my village and I want to oppress my relatives. I want to show them that I've succeeded, right? That is key. And that's why luxury goods are such a very lucrative part of the business. In fact, for insurance people, think about it. There are sections of our communities that it's a badge of honor. From social dimension, I have insurance now. I have health insurance. You don't have health insurance. I have health insurance. That shows that I'm at a certain segment of society, or I work for a certain type of company, right? I have a certain amount of money. Okay? So when we think about solving problems, don't just look at it from a functional standpoint. Although there are people that even getting them from nothing to functional, that actually now can even translate into a social piece. Think about cities that don't have light, right? And then one of the people in the community actually ends up getting light through a generator. All of a sudden, socially, they stand out. So you should be looking at those aspects of the problems that you're solving too. It's not just function. It's not just getting from one place to the other. It's how I get there. If Davido was coming to your country, would you pick him up in a Honda or you pick him up in a Mercedes? Right? Davido is not concerned about getting to the hotel or getting from one place to the other in your country. Davido must look like Davido. Right? He can't be caught on social media walking into a Honda Accord. He must be in a Mercedes, a Rolls Royce, or whatever it is. That is personal and also social for him. So it is important for you to have this in your head when you think about discovery. Ask the questions, because it might be just more than functional. It could be also a very emotional, and when I say emotional, personal and social aspect that they're looking for you to resolve for them. Okay. I have 3 minutes to 10 past the hour. Let's take some questions, 1 or 2 quick questions, and then we can close up because I know we've run out of time. But I wanted to close with that that functional versus emotional aspect to kind of open up the way you're thinking about. I heard the conversation around farmers and making sure they have access to water, right? Is it just functional, or is there an emotional aspect to that? From a social dimension standpoint, even a personal dimension standpoint, that is inherent in the problem that you could use to increase the kind of value that you're creating for your customers. I really think that's a very important part of the question that we're having. All right. So talk to me. Any questions for me as we start to close out? Any comments, insights that you want to share? Aha moments, highlights?
I think my highlight has just come towards the end when we are talking about when you're solving a problem, trying to think about functional versus emotional. I think initially people will start at functional. And when they keep, that is why they always say that even if your salary increases, you are always having the same problems because you are living in a house, it was functional, but now you're moving up to a different house. So being able to target people and see which emotions, and this could also be very cultural, depending on which country you are. You will find that people from certain areas will react differently to things like debt, to things like insurance, to things like luxury. Others will be very frugal, others not. So they are the same people, same class, but because of the environment, they will respond emotionally more than functional. Like in Kenya, where I come from, you will find that some community are very functional. Like somebody that is very rich will just have a Pro Box because a Pro Box is very functional. While others will, go for the high end cars. And this now breaks down to why, and that goes to the emotional bit of it. So
Yeah, Hillary. Thank you for that, Hillary. And it gives you opportunities to really find more interesting problems to solve, right? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else before we go? Thank you, Hillary, for that. Okay. All right. Well, this. Oh yeah, go ahead. Who's that? Quick.
Edward.
Edward, go ahead.
Yeah, my pick from the last illustration is that if you are solving a problem, if you have a product, you're supposed to sell the benefit of the product, and once your customer sees the benefit of the product, then even the price will not become a problem, as long as they see the benefit. Thank you,
Edward. That's a key point because functional. That's where you start to see people jumping from one solution to the other, right? The cheaper it is, they'll go to that solution. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people who are thriving, providing functional value. But emotional value. That's why people will buy the Mercedes over the Accord. They'll pay 60,000 more. Why? Not only because they can afford it, but because it gives them something that's above and beyond, right? And so that's something to think about. I think insurance has the opportunity to be more emotional than functional. It could be personal, it could be social. And the key for us as InsurTech founders, InsurTech product providers, is to think about how to take it beyond just functional. Instead of just saying, oh yeah, we just, what did that guy say? Risk management. We take the risk management away from you. When I feel good that my risk is reduced, that's not functional. It's emotional. It's personal. And then when it's clear, if I can show to others that, what, I'm operating in such a way because my risk has been reduced, that's social. And that's part of the opportunity that you have here. Okay. All right. So I'll see you guys next week. We'll get into conversations around assumptions, right? What assumptions are you making? And how do you make sure that those assumptions become fact? And if they're not fact, how you make sure you find the right facts? We'll talk about that next week. Okay. But I appreciate your, it's not too many of us, and I appreciate your participation, okay, and your patience because we went over. So thank you, Andrew. I don't know if you have anything to close with, but thank you for indulging me. Thank you.
HED.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for the session. It was awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Chidi. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidi. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. See you next week, guys.